So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I not have communications with the Russians.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
So, it is political. You're a communist.
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring. Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
Hello and welcome to Mueller, She Wrote, and this is our special coverage of the Mueller Report. This is part 4 in our series. I'm your host, AG, and with me as always are Jaleesa Johnson.
Hello.
And Jordan Coburn.
Hello.
Today we are covering part of Section 4. Only a small part because it's a huge effing section. And this section is called Russian Government Links and Contacts with the Trump Campaign, beginning on page 66 if you're reading along. So this is where we just get into, and by the way, we all know the Mueller Report is a summary. Mm-hmm. And the summary here of the Trump campaign contacts with Russia is going to take us a few episodes. Probably 4 episodes to cover.
That's intense.
That's how many campaign contacts, over 100.
Right.
With Russia.
This is the juiciest section for sure.
Yes, outside of volume 2. Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. This is volume 1.
That's true. So far, I guess I should have said.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So the introduction to this section states the Office of Special Counsel was tasked with investigating the third avenue of attempted Russian interference, which are the links between the Trump campaign and Russia, and that the office was unable to establish criminal coordination between the two parties. As we know, the threshold to charge is very high, and as explained previously, the fact that no conspiracy could be charged does not mean there were not significant links between the Russians and the Trump campaign. It also doesn't mean there was zero evidence of collusion. There's tons of it, and we're about to go over it in the next 4 episodes.
Yeah, lots of gray area.
So Mueller then explains that this section of the report will outline those links, mostly in chronological order from the early days of the campaign through the election and through transition.
And in a fantasy report world, throughout his presidency.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he got, he had to stop at some point. You got to draw a line, otherwise you just be in there forever.
Yeah. I wish Lewandowski would have gone to him and been like, hey, can you only do like future stuff? And then he'd be like, sure, fingers crossies,
yeah.
And then just come out with 2 reports. That's my fantasy world.
I like it.
Nice.
I like it a lot. Mm-hmm. All right, so part A here of Russian government contacts with Trump folks covers the entire campaign period from September 2015 to November 2016, and this section is beefy. It has 8 sections. The Trump Tower Moscow, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, Dimitri Simes and the Center for National Interest, the June 9th, 2016 Trump Tower meeting, the Republican National Convention, post-convention contacts with Kislyak, and Paul Manafort. But we're only going to be covering today the Trump Tower Moscow and Papadopoulos. And then the next episode, we'll get to Carter Page and Dimitri Simes and so on and so forth. That's how giant this section is.
Yeah,
That's how
very
many contacts
meaty.
And this entire section begins by saying Russians and Russian media began showing interest in Trump just months after he announced in June 2015, and that Mueller investigated the Trump Tower Moscow deal to see if there was any coordination related to the election. He then let us know that as the campaign progressed, Russian outreach progressed, and that the office also looked into 2 of Trump's policy advisors and their connections to finding dirt on Hillary Clinton in the form of emails. A DC-based think tank with Russia connections, the Trump Tower meeting, the National Convention, post-convention contacts between Trump aides and Kislyak, and then, of course, contacts through Manafort. There's a footnote here that gives an example of Russian outreach at the bottom of page 66 and how in August of 2015, a Russian journalist reached out to Hope Hicks and for an interview with Trump, and that a day earlier, the publication registered the domains Trump2016.ru and DonaldTrump2016.ru.
I am RU.
I wonder if I got those from GoDaddy.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Time to renew.
GoDaddy dictator. Get the world domination ball rolling today at just $10.99 a month. Definitely.
GoDictator.com. It's our next ad.
Oh, nice.
Somebody make a note there, please.
Oh, you got it.
We're going to do it. It's going to go down. So yeah, and Hope Hicks, you guys, as you know, I don't know if you knew this today, what are we on, June 12th, she agreed to testify to the House Judiciary Committee, I believe, behind closed doors, and they will publish the transcripts to that. Although I imagine anything she's asked about at her time in the White House or during the transition, she'll probably invoke executive privilege.
Yeah. And she's like massively pissing Trump off by cooperating with that.
But you sure he's not behind it? I mean, I wouldn't imagine he is, but I kind of wonder.
No, I don't think he's behind it, but I'm sure she's just trying to do what she can. But I think she'll just keep saying executive privilege, and he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, because that defends him, yeah.
And that, by the way, she has no grounds on which to claim executive privilege.
But white privilege.
But I thought that she was not claiming that, and she would, like, by responding to that request for documents and for testimony, that's her sort of defying his plan to claim executive privilege.
I just mean when she sits down in front of the closed door Congress and they ask her about shit.
Oh, you think she's just going to wind up saying that?
That's executive privilege.
Let's do a drinking
I wonder.
game. Yeah, every time she says that, let's just take a shot.
Well, we'll never know because it's behind closed doors, right?
Well, we get the transcripts, though. They're going to release the transcripts.
What a fun drinking game to read.
Reading, drinking games.
I'm a slow reader.
All right, let's move on to page 67, and we'll get into section 1 under the campaign, part A, and this is about the Trump Tower Moscow project. We know all about this. There's a basic introduction saying that from 2013 to 2016, Trump is a douche. No, Trump was trying to build Trump Tower Moscow. And Cohen spearheaded, not superheaded, gave superhead to all the project managers. No, he spearheaded the project from the fall of 2015 to mid-2016. The footnote reminds us that Cohen was charged for lying about the Trump Tower Moscow timeline. We know that. The next section talks about the elements of Trump Tower Moscow, including subsection A, underpants A, which is about the Crocus Group, and subsection B, which is about IC Expert and Ritz Kalatze. We've heard of him. We've talked about him quite a bit in early episodes of the Mueller, She Wrote Maine podcast. And then subsection C, Trump's letter of intent. And then subsection D, the travel propositions and Russian contacts. Woo! Mm-hmm. Moscow. So, subsection A is the Crocus Group. It covers a timeline for 2013 and 2014. Crocus Group is a Russian real estate conglomerate owned by Aris Agalarov. And his son is Amin Agalarov. Remember
I think
the
Christina. Yeah, Christina Agalarov.
And they started I don't know why that's the noise for her.
That's pretty good.
They started discussing Trump Tower Moscow project shortly after the 2013 Miss Universe pageant, very feminist organization, and that's according to Don Jr.'s testimony to the Senate Judiciary in September 2017. That's per the footnote. Trump Jr. was the negotiator for the Trump org, and Emin Agalarov, the singer and son of Aris Agalarov. Who else was there? Ike Kavalatse. We've heard of him too. And sometimes Rob Goldstone.
Oh, that's right.
Goldstone.
Dude, that guy's been flying under the radar like so much more than I feel he deserves.
We had him on the show and he just seemed like the nicest fella.
Yeah, and every time he shows up, he's just like, I didn't know. I mean, like every time that's what he does.
Like the Falstaff of of the whole situation, like, whoopsie doodle.
Yeah.
Goldstone.
Yeah, shouldn't have put that banana peel outside that office.
The goofiest Bond villain of all.
There you go.
Goldstone. Anyway, he represented the Crocus Group. And I would note here that this seems like a lot of the same folks that tried to organize the Trump Tower meeting in June of 2016. Mm-hmm. And it makes me wonder if Junior felt pressured to set up that meeting because of a potential tower deal. Like, take this meeting. You know, don't you want Trump Tower Moscow to be built?
Oh. Yes. Again, with the Goldstone thing, it's like it's one thing for him to be like, oh, I didn't know that was really bad stuff about the whole dirt on Hillary Clinton thing, but then I didn't know it was bad stuff about the Trump Tower and a potential run for president.
Whoopsie. Mm-hmm. But in a British accent. Whoopsie.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the epitome of compromised, in my personal opinion. But we don't know about any of that because that's counterintelligence stuff, not part of the Mueller report. But they did start the counterintelligence hearings today in Congress, so we'll see where that goes. But in December 2013, Kavalatse and Jr. signed a preliminary terms, and later that month, Trump Org accepted a 3.5% commission on all sales with no licensing fees or incentives, and they spent January and February of 2014 developing a letter of intent. 2 months to write a letter of intent. All this according to emails Mueller obtained. And that's per the footnotes there. Second paragraph on page 67 covers most of 2014 and goes onto the development plans, including that it was going to be an 800-unit building constructed on an Agalarov-owned site called Crocus City. Take me down to Crocus City where the grass is green and
Yeah, Crocus City, it sounds like it needs to be guarded with a moat of like crocodiles or something that later get turned into jackets for money laundering purposes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of croaking like dead people. It's just morbid. Yeah, Crocus City. I don't like it.
Crocuses are flowers, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, good
But
for them.
it's a weird name for a flower. It just
is.
sounds like crocus.
Yeah, some names are just
metal.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I often think chlamydia is too pretty for an STD name.
Right.
Yeah.
Or sublime shouldn't mean happy. It sounds terrible.
Exactly.
Anyway, and it just does. Then we found out Ivanka toured the site, Crocus City. Take me home. And this is the site with Emin Agalarov, toured with him in February of 2014. And this is interesting because of the emails that were recently uncovered between Cohen and 4 Trump org and Trump family lawyers, namely Fuderfass, Abby Lowell, Sekulow, and Alan Garten, that instruct Cohen to lie to Congress and say that Ivanka was not at all involved in any of this, and then dangled a pardon for Cohen if he tells that lie. But here we have Ivanka touring the first Trump Tower Moscow site in, Crocus City. Hey! So to think she had nothing to do with future negotiations, especially in the hotel she was going to have her own spa inside of, is
I'm glad you
stupid.
mentioned that. Yeah, she literally was going to have a spa and a jewelry store in there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, fine jewelry on both sides. We've made jokes about that. Yeah.
Paradise City. So by November 2014, Crocus City, talks broke down, and the Trumps did the old spaceman goodbye. That's how Jordan leaves conversations. She puts on a jetpack and goes,
It's amazing.
floats away.
My ideal exiting.
Yeah, because it's an Irish goodbye when you just ghost a party and don't say bye to everybody.
Yeah.
But Jordan does the old spaceman goodbye.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to walk.
Right. I like to moonwalk out of things.
And a
too.
sign is left behind that says Jordan has left the conversation.
That's great.
Again, the footnotes here show that Mueller got all this from emails. So these are emails. This isn't just somebody said something sometime and maybe he heard it. Then we move on to part B here regarding IC Expert and Ritz Kalatze. And these are the talks that began on a new project idea in the summer of 2015. And this is where Felix Sater jumps in and gets with Cohen, and they work on behalf of the Trump org. Sater had already worked on a previous Trump Tower Moscow deal, so he was familiar with what the Trump org was interested in, and he also served as an informal agent to the Trump org when he accompanied Ivanka Trump Jr. And Trump Jr. to Moscow in the mid-2000s. And there were a couple of different Trump Tower Moscow deals. And this is what Russia does. And we know this from David Korn and Michael Isikoff in the book Russian Roulette, when he was talking about Carter Page, and they said, how did you deal with Carter Page? How did you get one over on him? And the Russians said, well, we make him promise. Then we get documents from him. Then we tell him, go fuck himself.
Right. That's their strategy.
So here they are dangling these Trump towers, and they never come to fruition. And we know from the Fusion GPS Glenn Simpson testimony, he was really interested in why there were so many starts of deals in Moscow, but nothing ever got done. Because ding, 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 that's a red flag that they're dangling
buildings.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I want to get like a little necklace, like a little Moscow tower necklace, just dangling.
Dangle necklace. I just, charm, like a...
Yeah.
He went to Jared. But this is what they do.
Did
they
you
come
mean to
you,
make that pun? He went to Jared?
Oh, that's funny.
That's brilliant.
Yes. Unintended pun.
Yeah, and the Trumps fell for it because Ivanka found her ass in Russia multiple times looking into that deal.
They just string you along.
Various forms of it. Yeah.
It's like that ant in Honey I Shrunk the Kids with the stick tied to it with the piece of the cookie, but it's tied to his own body, so he just keeps walking forward.
Yeah.
He's never going to get that cookie.
And then she's like, hey, I don't want anyone to know that I'm an idiot and went there multiple times.
Basically. Just keep this between us.
Oh, Ivanka. So Sater reached out to Cohen on behalf of IC Expert. That's a Russian real estate corporation, much like Crocus, but with a better name. And they were controlled by a dude named Andrei Rosov. Sater has known Rosov since 2007 at least, and bought a building in New York with him in 2014. So he contacted Rosov to pursue a Trump Tower Moscow in which IC Expert would build the thing and then license the Trump name for it. Which is all Trump does. He doesn't build anything. He finds people who are building shit and sticks his name on it and asks for money.
Totally. God. The American way.
It's like that's the smallest dick energy I can think of.
Oh, definitely.
We have something on the show if you're new here. We call it small dick energy. And it doesn't actually have anything to do with the size of your penis.
Right.
It's just how you act. And just give me money to put my name on your building. It's a good example of that energy.
Yeah, infuriating. He was able to even remotely create a business around that.
Yeah, he lost. Well, now we know he didn't make any money off of it. In fact, lost $1 billion. Biggest loser, bigly. Cohen was the only Trump org person to negotiate directly with IC Expert and got permission to do so from candidate Trump in September of 2015, and he kept Trump directly informed about the progress. Cohen also communicated with Ivanka about an architect and with Junior, all in the fall of 2015. And these are beans come true, guys. This architect isn't named here, but I know it's John Fotiadis. We reported on Fotiadis and added him to our fantasy indictment draft in December of 2018. He's the guy who immediately shuttered his 10-year-old architectural firm the minute CNBC reached out to him about the Trump Tower Moscow project. It just disappeared. And we knew back then Mueller was looking closely at Fotiadis, who Trump has used in all of his Eastern European projects. Might be worth drafting for your fantasy indictment team. According to footnotes on this page, all of this information came from Mueller's interviews with Cohen, Sater, and Rossoff, but not Fotiadis, which means he's either a worthless or a target.
He's on the run.
So
he's
put some beans on that guy.
He's an architect. He can build his own bridges and get away.
And burn them. Just build, burn.
Oh, that's
build, burn.
great.
You'll never catch me.
Yeah. I'm more inclined to think he's just worthless.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But
Then why'd he get spooked? What's that about?
Because worthless people are scared.
Spaceman goodbye. You know?
Okay, that's right. He did Spaceman goodbye that one.
He did.
Yeah, solid.
Full on.
Well done,
Yeah.
Fotiadis. What's his name?
Fotiadis.
Okay.
He strikes me as the type of person that wouldn't be able to commit to even whatever level of criminality that wouldn't even reach.
Totally.
But he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can't
Catch
do
him
it. I'm too
jaywalking.
scared.
He'll shut down his whole firm.
He just flies
Yeah.
away. I wasn't jaywalking.
Yeah, like he was dipping his toes in the water of sketchy deals or something, and he got spooked.
Yeah.
Dip your toes,
But that's not.
Fotiadis.
But he has a history of that. So.
Right. And
Dip
you
your
know what? Good
toes.
for him if he
Dip
ran
your
in the other
toes.
direction, you know?
Dip your toes, Fotiadis.
I like that.
Somebody make me a beat, Dre. Okay. Anyway,
You're talking to me?
That's great.
I've never laughed that hard. That fall, Cohen reached out to Ritz Kaladze. This is the guy from the first Trump Tower Moscow deal with Crocus City. And Ritz Kaladze forwarded that to an associate saying, if we could organize a meeting in New York City at the highest level of the Russian government, Mr. Trump, this project would definitely receive worldwide attention. I'm sure that's exactly how he talked. Cohen and Ritz Kaladze came back and forth. They emailed back and forth a lot, trying to get the project off the ground. But Cohen eventually decided, fuck you, Crocus Group, going with IC Expert instead, because it's got expert in the name. They're fucking experts.
Of course.
All this is according to the emails Mueller got, per the footnotes here on this page. Then on to Section C about the letter of intent and contacts with the Russians between October 2015 and January 2016. So between October and November 2015, Trump and IC Expert signed a letter of intent. This is the one we got where everyone was like, oh, pearls clutch them, because we found out he was trying to build a tower the whole time. His campaign was, I got nothing to do with the Russians, and Manafort's like, that's what our position is. No contacts, no business deals. And here he is, a signed letter of intent in November 2015 with Trump and IC Experts. And we reported on that when the news outlet obtained the copy of the letter. It said both parties intended to facilitate further discussions to enter into a mutually acceptable agreement for Trump Tower Moscow. IT Expert then goes into the terms, which are boring, but basically would earn substantial sums of money for Trump without Trump having to assume any significant liabilities or financial commitments. $100 million, $180 million or something like that. A lot of effing money.
Oh, yeah.
Now are you compromised? I'm sure we'll find out in the counterintelligence information as that comes to light, if it does. On November 3rd, 2015, after the letter of intent was signed, Sater emailed Cohen to tell him how the project could help Trump get elected. And we've all heard this email. If you've listened to the podcast, I don't know, maybe if you're not into this, you probably haven't heard this email, but we sure have. Buddy, our boy can become president of the USA and we can engineer it.
What an opening line.
Like, seriously.
Buddy, our boy.
Yeah, I'm surprised the GOP isn't accusing Sater of being a planted mole whose sole job was to get Trump's campaign to be investigated with that email.
Dude, totally.
I will get all Putin's team to buy in on this. I will manage this process. Michael, Putin gets on stage with Donald for a ribbon cutting for Trump Tower Moscow, and Donald owns the Republican nomination and possibly beats Hillary, and our boy is in. We will manage this process better than anyone. You and I will get Donald and Vladimir on stage together very shortly. This is a game changer. Sater then followed up the same day with this email. Donald doesn't stare down. He negotiates and understands the economic issues, and Putin only wants to deal with a pragmatic leader, and successful businessman is a good candidate for someone who knows how to negotiate. Business, politics, whatever, it's all time for someone who knows how to deal. I think I can get Putin to say that at a Trump Tower Moscow press conference. If he says it, we own this election. America's not difficult. Adversary. It's really poorly worded, sorry.
Yes.
Agreeing that Donald is good guy to negotiate. We can own this election. Michael, my next steps are very sensitive with Putin's very, very close people. We can pull this off. Michael, let's go. Two boys from Brooklyn getting a USA president elected.
Oh my God.
This is really, really good. The footnotes on this page indicate that's all information on page 71. It came from Cohen, Sater, and Rossoff emails, as well as the letter of intent. So those are all emails. And according to Cohen, moving on to page 72, he did not realize the political import of Trump Tower Moscow, nor did he recall speaking to anyone from the Trump campaign about it. But he did say he recalled Trump saying the campaign would be a great infomercial for Trump brand properties.
Oh, of course. I mean, I was thinking about that for a while, how he had Trump TV in the works. I don't think he really wanted to win. Maybe he was open to it, but mostly they seem to have backup plans there, like to use the campaign as a propeller for something back in the media, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, to make a whole new channel for just fuckfaces.
And he happened to win. Putin probably really wanted him to win, but Trump was like, I'll just ride this wave, you know, just
I don't think
enough.
he expected to win. You're
He
right.
saw his face that night, right? Yeah,
I just made the
I
face.
wish they could all see it.
Then the next subsection, Underpants, goes on to talk about post-LOI contacts with Russia opening by saying Sater told Cohen he felt they would need the go-ahead from a high-ranking Russian official or high-ranking Russian officials, and if they could get Putin, they'd be golden. Well, yeah, because there's not really a higher-ranking Russian official. Sater then reached out through another Russian business contact. Then a month after the letter of intent, Klokhov's wife, Lana Urchova, I think it's Urchova, emailed Ivanka to offer Klokhov assistance. So Urchova, Ivanka, Klokhov assistance to the Trump campaign. Ivanka then forwarded that email to Cohen. And these Ivanka communications are important because of the Trump lawyers, again, urging Michael Cohen and later emails to say Ivanka had nothing to do with any of this. She's totally innocent. Sweet, sweet girl.
Right. She just forwarded them because, you know.
It was an accident.
Yeah, totally. Her finger slipped, you know?
You know, reply all. I hate when I do that. So Cohen Googled Klokov and he thought he found him, but what he actually found was a former Olympic weightlifter.
Oh, that's so funny.
But he thought it was him, but it wasn't him. But I guess maybe because Trump hangs out with wrestlers, he was like, it could be this guy.
Yeah, he gave a sumo wrestler a trophy recently.
Freaking, Amin is a pop star, dude. Everything's fucked.
Yeah, the reality isn't real. But eventually Cohen got a hold of the actual Klokov, who urged him to travel to Russia and meet with an intermediary in hopes those conversations would lead to another meeting with Putin. They argued a bit about whether it would be an official visit or an unofficial visit, and then the conversations ended without follow-through. So they ghosted. By late December 2015, again, that's another example of a Russian just
dipping out.
Trying to hook and then leaving him. Go fuck yourself.
The Russian spaceman goodbye.
Yes,
they're astronauts
which is a
too.
go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I mean, like Sater's email saying we can do this. Come on, 2 Brooklyn boys getting a U.S. president elected. That's exactly what they want. They want to let the dangling lights that fire under them.
Yeah,
thinking they can use that to get him elected when really they're going to use him
and
to
get jobs in the
their foreign
administration.
policy.
And, yeah, absolutely, 100%. So by late December 2015, Cohen was frustrated that Sater hadn't really set up any useful meetings, so he ventured out on his own, emailing the Russian press secretary Peskov that he got from the website, and Putin's chief of staff Ivanov, but he entered the email address incorrectly.
Of course.
So he emailed the press secretary again in January, saying, hey, bro, our talks on Trump Tower have stalled, hook a brother up, and he emailed again 2 days later asking to speak with Putin's chief of staff, Ivanov. Cohen told Congress he didn't remember getting responses, but the lie detector said that was a lie. And Cohen admitted he lied to the office and continued communicating with them and working on the deal through June 2016. There was a little more back and forth with Ivanov's personal assistant, Cohen and Sater, inviting Cohen to travel to meet with him, but Cohen never went.
Mm-hmm. His phone went, though, probably.
His phone went. His phone goes everywhere without him.
Yeah.
Then we get to the top of page 76, subsection D, entitled Discussions About Russia Travel by Michael Cohen or candidate Trump, December 2015 to June 2016, excuse me. Part 1 is Sater's overtures to Cohen to travel to Russia. So this is a little detail about Sater trying to get him to come over. Mueller says here that those late January travel discussions were not the first or the last about Cohen contemplating travel to Russia. Then they outline emails beginning in late 2015 that include discussions where Sater repeatedly tries to get Cohen to come to Russia. One of the first emails reads, please call me. I have Yevgeny Devoskin on the other line. He needs a copy of you and Donald's passports, so they need a scan of every page of the passports.
Wow.
Invitations and visas will be issued this week by VTB Bank.
That's amazing.
To discuss financing for Trump Tower Moscow.
No.
They're just trying so hard to get whatever they can.
That's a sanctioned bank, by the way. Politically, neither Putin's office nor Ministry of Foreign Affairs cannot issue invites, so they are inviting commercially business.
Politically?
Yeah.
As if they give any fucks.
Right? So VTB is Russia's second biggest bank, and VTB Bank CEO Andrei Kostin, will be at the meetings with Putin so that it's a business meeting and not political. We will be invited to Russian consulate this week to receive invite and have visa issued. Thank you. VTB Bank is one of the possible entities that is in a secret subpoena battle with Mueller, the secret company from Country A. Now the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office has that case. Last July, Mueller issued a subpoena to a foreign state-owned entity with a U.S. office or U.S. offices that does significant business in the U.S., and Judge Beryl Howell held the company in contempt, fining them $50,000 a day until they handed over the documents. They refused, claiming sovereignty, but ultimately lost and handed over nearly 1,000 documents to special counsel. But special counsel objected, saying there was a mysterious chunk of time missing, so the judge upped the contempt fines to $300,000 a day. But then resolved the case a couple days later and removed the contempt order when Mueller's investigation ended. And it seemed to surprise everyone in the court documents, as they had all expected to have more time to file motions. In recently released court documents, we found out that the secret subpoena case goes to the heart of the Russia investigation and was actually opened before Mueller was appointed, but handed off to him because it was applicable to Mueller's jurisdiction. Many feel that VTB Bank could be that secret entity, as it was poised to finance Trump Tower Moscow, among other things. I personally think the secret company is owned by a Gulf state because both prosecutors put on the case, both in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office and in the Special Counsel's Office, are Middle East experts. So I figure it's maybe Qatar Investment Authority or maybe Mubadala Investment Fund, but the identity is still unknown, and a new court order indicates they will not release the identity anytime soon. So I'm hoping a journalist cracks it.
Ooh, yes,
That's what I'm hoping.
Is
it
Scott Stedman, where are you at?
Patriots.
Who's not leaking? Why is there not anyone leaking?
Yeah, we need that or unredacted Mueller report leak too. Just get it over with.
We need Deep Throat.
Yeah.
We need a new Deep Throat. All right, guys. So anyway, Cohen texted Sater an image of his passport and then asked Rona Graff, that's Trump's assistant, for Trump's, which apparently was not sent. I wouldn't send him a copy of my passport either. Mueller notes here that Devoskin is an executive of GenBank and is under U.S. sanctions on the OFAC list. He was deported from the U.S. in 2000 for criming, stock fraud. Then page 77, more communications between Sater and Cohen in April 2016, 3 months later. Sater asked Cohen if he was coming to Russia. Just, not coming, but
right.
to Russia.
To Russia.
He said in an email, I had a chat with Moscow, just the town, I guess. Assuming the trip does not happen, the question is before or after the convention. I said I believe, but I don't know for sure. It's probably after the convention. Obviously, the pre-meeting trip, you only can happen anytime you want, but the two big guys wear the question. Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Well, he tried.
I said I would confirm and revert. Let me know about if I was right by saying I believe after Cleveland, and also when you want to speak with them and possibly fly over.
Google Translate is a thing.
Can't you just say, you coming over, brah?
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Succinct.
Yeah. Whoa, word salad. So Sater reached out. That's, by the way, is how you identify a Russian troll in the Internet Research
Agency. Definitely. They don't even bother.
They tweet like that.
Yeah.
It's a very distinct pattern because of the way that the Russian language is set up and the way how English is different with subjects and nominatives and stuff like that. You can feel it.
Something else, it's that liberals will point that out, as I think we should, but then the people that, are I guess in support of the bots, they'll be like, oh, you're just making fun of the fact that they don't speak proper, like
in support of the bots.
Yeah, indirectly in support of the bots because they're just making it out like, how I've heard some conservatives say that liberals are so nitpicky about language, but I'm like, no, it's important that we see these patterns.
Yeah, I'm not making fun of them because they're Russian.
Right.
I'm being angry at them because they're sitting in a Russian troll farm right now trying to interfere in our democracy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if anything, that language sounds more advanced than the ways Americans speak English.
For sure.
I think the Russian language is beautiful.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, will you make fun of the way I talk? English is my second language. Thought you liked immigrants.
Right. They missed the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I had a chat with Moscow. I just love that opening line. Me and Moscow chatting on the phone. So Sater reached out again in May, trying to tie Cohen's travel to the St. Petersburg International Forum, saying Peskov would like to invite you as his guest to the St. Petersburg Forum, which is Russia's Davos. It's June 16th to 19th. He wants to meet there with you and possibly introduce you to either Putin or Medvedev, as they are not sure if one or both will be there. This is perfect. The entire business class of Russia will be there as well. He said anything you want to discuss includes dates and subjects are on the table to discuss. Sater texted Cohen again the next day to see if those dates. He's really desperate, man. Chill out. You got to wait 2 days, right?
Oh, yeah, 2. I was going to say 3, but two is fine.
Is it standard 3 days now?
For Jesus.
Okay, for Jesus.
It's all who we want to be.
Totally. The next day, he texted him the next day to see if those dates worked. Can you do it? Can you do it? And Cohen just replied, works for me. And Sater kept on sending him stuff about the trip, promising Putin would be there or Medvedev. But Cohen felt like Cohen really felt like he was just blowing smoke up his ass. And he wasn't at all connected to Putin or anyone else important for that matter. So on June 14th, Cohen met Sater in the lobby of Trump Tower and told him he would not be traveling to Russia. So I think you're full of shit, bro.
Yeah, sassy.
I feel like you're dangling, you know.
I feel bamboozled.
Russian juice at me, and I'm just not falling for it.
Yeah.
Seriously, if
It turns out Cohen is the smartest guy.
Yeah.
What other words are like when people lie, like hobknocker? Like, was there some like weird English words? Is that like a different?
I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I've heard that one on
Shakespearean
iCarly. I don't
insults or
think it's as
something?
vulgar as it sounds. Yeah.
My favorite is Maddo's. They're telling porky pies.
There you go. See cute things like that. Yeah,
Porky
yeah.
pies. So we get to subsection 2 on page 78 about Trump's opportunities now to travel to Russia. Mueller determined that there was evidence of the possibility of Trump traveling to Russia during the Trump Tower Moscow negotiations in 2 contexts. First, Cohen said he talked to Trump about traveling to Russia twice, once in late 2015, once in spring 2016. Trump said he was willing to travel if it would actually help the project significantly. And Cohen asked Lewandowski to help coordinate, but he said he'd get back to him when he had solid dates. So he's like, Lewandowski's like, get back to me when you have a date figured out. Cohen indicated, though, that he knew Trump would not be able to travel before the convention because of how busy his campaign schedule was. Second context of Trump traveling. Trump also got an invitation to the St. Petersburg International Forum, where Ivanka's fashion friend, Mira Duma, sent the invitation to Trump. And Ivanka, on behalf of the deputy prime minister, is another way the Russians are reaching out to the Trump campaign through Ivanka's fashion buddies, and sent a letter on behalf of the deputy prime minister of the Russian Federation. And I'm pretty sure that's the guy Nastya Rybka filmed on the yacht with Oleg Deripaska, who was passing along the Manafort private campaign briefing information he got from Kalimnik to pay back Deripaska. Anyhow, Trump declined. Too busy.
Okay.
According to the Mueller report, it did not appear that Rona Graf did not immediately send the formal declination. According to Trump's written answers, Graf sent the letter 2 weeks later. That's the first mention of Trump's written answers to Mueller's questions in this report. And it's notable that Mueller decided to ask him about the invitation to the St. Petersburg International Forum. The footnote says that in Volume 2, Appendix C, it explains that Mueller sent questions to Trump September of 2018. Trump provided the answers in November. And further, the prepared declination letter from Rona Graf is asked in Question 4, Part E of Mueller's questions. So I just think it's weird. Like, it just doesn't seem like a big deal to me. Why is Mueller asking about the invitation to the St. Petersburg International Forum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have any idea now? It still kind of boggles you a little bit?
Yeah, maybe there's a little answers later on, but I mean, it's like, what? Who gives a...
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess just to maybe try to investigate the context of all of his travels or potential travels or invitations to
Connections,
Russia.
contacts. Yeah, yeah. Just in any...
But he didn't
Like in a
even
very
go to the
broad
thing.
sense. Yeah, it was
Well-
just an invitation.
Yeah.
Maybe
But
that-
it did take Rona Graf a couple weeks. Here, check this out. Because right around the same time Rona was preparing that letter, a New York investment banker named Robert Forsman, who was a friend of the producer of The Apprentice, Mark Burnett, reached out to her, to Rona Graf, saying the Russian friends wanted Trump to speak at the St. Petersburg Investment Forum. In an initial email to Graf, Forsman said he had a lot of experience with Russia and Ukraine. He'd successfully set up a back channel between Putin and Bush.
Oh.
And wanted to meet with Trump or Lewandowski or some other relevant person to discuss that and some other stuff, but he was uncomfortable talking about it in unsecure email.
Oh, well, good on him.
So Graf forwarded that email to another Trump executive assistant in the spring of 2016. So maybe this is a big deal because now we've got this guy Forsman, a friend of Mark Burnett from The Apprentice, coming in saying, I set up a back channel between Bush and Putin. You want me to...
Yeah, that's hardcore.
There's so many connections there, too. It's like the back channel is an issue, and then also Mark Burnett is an issue with the PP tape stuff or the Apprentice stuff. I just heard that he has things on Trump himself.
Oh, and all the racist stuff that he said on B-roll.
Yeah, totally. Enroll.
Yeah, it also makes,
Enroll. Yeah. Oh.
it also makes you want to go, oh, God.
Yeah. Took you
I'm
a
sorry,
minute.
guys.
Took
Sorry,
you a minute.
took my white brain a second. But it also makes you want to go back and look at all of Bush's foreign policy and like dissect everything.
Totally.
I know. I want Maddo to do a Bagman 2 about that.
Oh, yeah.
The Mark Burnett back channel with Bush. Burnett Bush back channel.
There you go. Triple
Bagman.
B.
Very sexual.
Oh, quadruple B.
There's no Bagman in that, but still, it would be a good pod because she uncovered some crazy bush shit in her Bagman podcast, which is why it went to Peabody.
Absolutely.
So anyway, after no immediate response, Forsman reached out twice more to Rona Graff. She apologized and forwarded the message to Lewandowski, and then in May, she forwarded Forsman's April 30th email to Stephen Miller. It's Stephen, right? Not Stefan.
Yeah, I say Stephen. I hope he's not
I
like
always
that.
say Stephen.
Because I just know some guys are like, it's Stefan.
Yeah.
And he just seems like that
Those
kind
guys
of
are all
guy.
pretentious.
That email asked her if she could maybe set up the meeting with Trump Jr. or Eric so that Forsman could convey what he needed to convey to Trump, to someone that Trump absolutely trusts to set up this back channel.
Right.
Ooh, I'm important. I know your friend from The Apprentice. Mueller found no other communication until Forsman contacted the Trump crew to try to get himself a job in the administration during transition. And when asked, he said he wasn't trying to set up a back channel between Trump and Putin. And when he bragged about setting up the back channel between Bush and Putin, he said, I was just burnishing my credentials.
Oh.
Just hashtag humble brag.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
So this whole part of the story we have never heard about until the Mueller report came out. And this Forsman guy trying to set up a back channel, it's just another guy trying to set up a back channel, and it being important enough for Mueller to ask about it in those written questions he sent over to Trump. It's all crazy.
Any back channel, I imagine, would be a red flag, but this one is especially interesting.
It's weird, right?
Very weird.
All right, so then we get to the bottom of page 80 and the section on George Papadopoulos. We're going on to Papadop now. We call him Papadop. Papadop was one of a handful of woefully unqualified foreign policy advisors to the Trump campaign from March through October of 2016. He was approached in April of 2016 by London-based professor Joseph Mifsud immediately after Mifsud's trip to Moscow, and he told Papadopoulos the Russians had dirt on Hillary in the form of thousands of emails. Papadop told a few people about it, including the Trump campaign, as well as a foreign diplomat who isn't named here, but we know it's probably Alexander Downer from Australia. And for several months, Papadop worked with Mifsud and two Russian nationals to arrange the meeting between the campaign and the Russian government, but that meeting never came to pass. And the last we heard, Mifsud was missing, right? Leaving behind a pregnant fiance.
We haven't heard anything about him.
There's a baby and his fiance running around.
Yeah, it
out
always
there.
makes me sad.
I don't know where he is. So the footnote about this says he met several times with special counsel in the summer and fall of 2017, Papadopoulos did, after he was arrested and charged with lying in a January 2017 interview. Same month Flynn lied to the FBI. About that timing and extent of his meetings, he lied about the timing and extent of his meetings with Mifsud and those two Russian nationals, Olga Polnitskaya and Ivan Timofeev. And I don't know if it's pronounced Timofeev or not, but that's how I like it. So
Okay.
there you go.
We'll take it.
Mueller then outlines the oranges of the Papadop campaign work. And Papadop wanted a role in the campaign in 2015, but he didn't get it. So he went over to Ben Carson.
Was
the
it
poor man's Trump, I
coffee
guess.
boy, senior coffee boy, maybe?
He left Carson in February 2015 and reached out again to Lewandowski through LinkedIn, because it's super
Nice.
official. During that time, Trump was getting shit in the media for having a crap foreign policy team. So Clovis got Papadopoulos' referral, Googled him, and decided he'd be great. He'd help Trump's foreign policy team seem legit. During his interview, it was made clear to him that Russia would be an important part of Trump's foreign policy, according to Papadopoulos. And Papadop was hired in March. That was their answer to people making fun of his foreign policy team, is to put Papadopoulos on it.
Nice.
So if you're getting shit for having an experienced idiot foreign policy and you think Papadop is a good idea, I don't even know where to file you. I don't know where to put you.
That's strange.
In my head. So then we get to section B and his initial related contacts, Russia-related contacts. A week after being hired, Papadop went to Italy, where he was introduced to Mifsud. Side beans here. This is where I think he met Simone Mangiante. And rumor has it Oleg Deripaska's yacht was somewhere nearby.
Oh, shit.
Rumor has it. This first full paragraph on page 82, that's where we're at right now, it goes into some detail on Mifsud. And the interesting thing to me is that the names appear to be redacted, but not for harm to an ongoing matter, but investigative technique. I don't understand why names would be redacted for investigative technique. But basically, the paragraph describes Mifsud maintained various contacts with Russians while living in London, including a person that worked for the Internet Research Agency, whose name is redacted. Then in January and February 2016, Mifsud met with another redacted person from another redacted person, possibly meeting in Russia. So 2 more redacted people, and then the IRA redacted guy. But Mueller found no evidence of the meeting at all. And then later in the spring, that original redacted person from the IRA was also in contact with another redacted person's Facebook account that was linked to an employee of the Russian military defense. And that account had overlapping contacts with a group of Russian-controlled Facebook accounts, some that were used to promote DC leaks.
I guess giving the names would also give away the technique somehow in this case. That's very interesting.
That's why I don't get it.
Yeah,
name for privacy or name for ongoing matter. Or name for grand jury
some
material.
inside beans. Only Mueller knows that one.
Yeah, but why is the name redacted for an investigative technique? And it makes me question Barr's redactions here.
Oh, because this is Barr?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I forgot that he's the one that actually redacted the summary.
Yup.
Stupid guy.
So anyhow, that Rome trip was when Mifsud met Papadop for the first time. Love is in the air. And at first, Mifsud didn't seem interested in him until they locked eyes across a crowd. No, until after he told him he was going to be on the Trump campaign. And then Mifsud was like, oh, hey, that's the man. And he told him he could introduce him to some important Russians, which made Papadop think that would increase his importance as a foreign policy advisor.
Oh, God, grossly misunderstands the role.
Totally.
Interestingly, footnote 415 is redacted here for investigative technique and harm to an ongoing matter. And that's the redacted name of the guy who worked at the Internet Research Agency.
Oh.
So the guy who worked at the Internet Research Agency is being investigated currently for an open and ongoing matter.
That's interesting.
It might have been one of those Russians that we were talking about that's going to be subsequently indicted for maybe... But it was the GRU, it wasn't the IRA that was hacking the D-Trip or the DNC, so I'm not quite sure. I haven't put it together yet, but I'll think about it. I just think that that's a weird... investigative technique / harm to an ongoing matter.
Yeah.
It has to do with Mifsud. Stone is mentioned in the Russian indictment, so that could be the ongoing matter here.
That would make sense, considering Stone has his trial coming up.
Yeah, because maybe this IRA dude is one of the indictees and because Stone is mentioned in it and they're involved, it's harm to an ongoing matter.
Yeah, I can see that.
On March 17th, happy St. Patrick's Day, Papadopoulos returned to London from Rome, and 4 days later, Trump named him a member of his foreign policy and national security advisory team, chaired by Jeff Sessions, calling him an oil and energy expert and an excellent guy.
Oh, wow, 2 lies.
And on March 24th, that's a week later, Papadop met with Mifsud and Olga Polnskaya, who he thought was Putin's niece, but wasn't. Remember that mix-up? And she said she could introduce him to the Russian ambassador to London, but that never happened. Dangle. Following that meeting, Papadop sent an email to the Foreign Policy Advisory Team saying, I just finished a very productive lunch with a good friend of mine, Joseph Mifsud, the director of the London Academy of Diplomacy, who introduced me to Putin's niece and the Russian ambassador in London, who acts as the deputy foreign minister.
Inflating.
He was so proud, I bet.
The topic of the
wrong,
lunch,
though. It wasn't even his lies.
Yeah, that too.
The topic of the lunch was to arrange a meeting between us and the Russian leadership to discuss U.S.-Russia ties under President Trump. They are keen to host us in a neutral city or directly in Moscow.
Not a neutral city. Fair enough.
Or a very non-neutral city.
Yeah, we can just go on an island.
One that sends chills down people's spines.
White Island, is it available?
Or Alcatraz. Like, what are you talking about? We'll go to Rikers if you guys want.
Let's book a venue.
Oh, my God. Then they said the leadership, including Putin, is ready to meet with us and Mr. Trump, should there be interest, waiting for everyone's thoughts on moving forward with a very important issue.
I like your Papadop voice.
Thanks. That's how he sounds in my head. Then the paragraph at the top of page 85 is really interesting. It says that at the time Papadop sent that message, Clovis perceived a shift in Trump's version of Russia from engaging Russia through a NATO framework and taking a strong stance against Russian aggression in Ukraine. That's the initial view.
Right.
NATO framework. And they shifted that over to redacted due to grand jury material.
To everything that exists now.
Basically.
to conspiring to win the campaign. And so I don't know if that's what it says, but it's
effectively
grand jury material. This footnote is also this week. And it's interesting because this week the House Judiciary voted to authorize the committee to go to court to petition for the release of grand jury material to the House. So if it subpoenas it, it doesn't have to take it to a full House vote or go through the DOJ. It can go directly to court.
Nice.
And demand these documents.
Do not pass go.
And I hope this is part of something we're able to learn about it. I hope it's not classified forever. But whatever this shift was, Clovis's reply to Papadop did not reflect that shift. That's why they bring up the shift.
Yes.
Because Clovis's reply was more along the NATO framework and the Ukraine aggression framework. His reply is this: "This is most informative. Let me work through the campaign. No, the commitments until we see how this plays out. My thought, no commitments until we see how this plays out. My thought is that probably should not go forward with any meetings with the Russians until we have had occasion to sit with our NATO allies, especially France, Germany, and Great Britain. We need to reassure our allies that we're not going to advance anything with Russia until we have everyone on the same page. More thoughts later today. Great work."
Wow, he sounds like he
Interesting.
thinks.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable.
What an
strangely enough.
idiot.
Either that or it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
cover-up email going on the NATO framework when
shit.
we know we've shifted to this redacted new framework of the way they think about Russia.
Yeah.
That's true, with that back channel.
Yeah, no, I like that detective work there. That sounds like something a psycho would do. Yeah, yeah.
Totally. So Clovis was still talking like they were going to engage Russia through the NATO framework, though by then the focus on Russia had shifted to something we don't know about. Like I said, it's redacted because of grand jury material. I hope we get to find that out before I die. Otherwise, preserve my head. Then we get to Part C and the March 31st foreign policy meeting. We all know this one. That's the famous meeting that Trump tweeted a photo of, the one with Trump at one end of the table, Sessions at the other end. We reported on where Sessions seemed totally cool with Russia contacts, and this is where Mueller outlines everything he knows about it. And we know from public reporting what happened in the meeting. They all introduced themselves, and when it was Papadop's turn, he said he could arrange a meeting with Putin and Trump. And according to Papadop and J.D. Gordon, Trump seemed interested, but only Papadop recalls Sessions being cool with it. J.D. Gordon and two others thought Sessions was not so jazzed.
Oh, so is Papadop just bad at reading body language or something?
And
Yeah.
J.D. Gordon, whoever that guy is.
Maybe he just has a weird face and you can't
Right,
read
right.
it.
Fair
Unreadable.
enough.
What's J.D. Gordon's deal?
He's just on that council
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
campaign.
What if
Because
he-
we haven't really heard his name past that.
That's a good point.
He's in Russian roulette a lot, and
It's been a minute.
past like this point in time though, like in the timeline.
oh
right?
yeah,
Like,
no,
yeah.
he's spaceman.
Pittered
Divide
out,
it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Sessions would have resting racist face, and it'd be hard to read that. The
He
whole time.
totally does.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone just knew Sessions was racist. That's what the takeaway was. And then Part D on page 86, Papadop learns Russia had dirt in the form of Clinton emails. Whatever was said at that March 31st meeting, Papadopoulos understood, whether whether Sessions was cool with it or not, or who was not jazzed or who wasn't jazzed. Papadop understood they wanted him to continue to work to arrange this meeting. That was his understanding. That was his takeaway.
Right.
So he did that when he returned to London. And page 87 talks about all the back and forth emails between Mifsud and Polinskaya trying to coordinate meetings. And eventually Polinskaya says the Russian Federation would be interested in a meeting with Trump once he secured the nomination. And all this information came from Papadopoulos himself in his testimony and emails he provided to the Office of
Damn,
Special
that's
Counsel.
the source. Straight from the horse's mouth. He's horse-like. Like a pony.
So Mifsud put Papadopoulos in touch with Timofeev. Okay, this is the other. Instead of Polinskaya and Timofeev are the two Russian contacts that he lied about being in touch with. So Mifsud put him in touch with Timofeev after Mifsud traveled to Moscow. And over the next several weeks in April, the two had multiple Skype conversations about setting up a meeting between the campaign and Russian officials. Papadop told Mueller he thought the conversation was being monitored by a third party because Timofeev was acting all official-like and he heard weird noises on the line. No shit, fuckface, it's Russia.
Right.
I had a sneaky feeling
Yeah.
on my call with Russians about cheaty crimes
Yeah.
that I was being watched.
It's comments like that he's saying he wants to take back now that he didn't get whatever deal he thought he was deserving of.
Yeah,
He's like, I shouldn't have told them.
he's already
that."
done with his 4 hours in prison or whatever the fuck he did. Shut
That's
up.
true.
Shut up. So Mifsud got back to
Watch. Sorry. I'm just imagining him writing like a book, like Memoirs from a Prison Man. Something about his like.
From a
like
coffee
he's
boy.
always talking about his stint.
Yeah.
Hey man, back when I was in the joint. Yeah, I can totally hear it. So Mifsud got back to London April 25th, and then another stop in Rome, and met Papadop for breakfast at the Andaz. So he went to Rome and came back to London April 25th, met Papadop, breakfast, Andaz. That's when Mifsud told him the Russians had Clinton emails. That's London, April 25th.
Yeah.
Then May 7th, couldn't even keep his mouth shut for 2 weeks. Papadopoulos bragged to Alexander Downer in a London pub. Then Part E, Russia-related communications with the Trump campaign. And this is all about Plopalops.
Snuffleupagus.
Cyclops, telling the campaign what he was doing over in London with the Russians. He set up, he sent updates to both Stephen Miller and Corey Lewandowski. So Stephen Miller's in on this. And he sent those updates about the willingness of Russian officials to meet with Trump. These communications between Papadop and Trump campaign officials continued during the spring and summer of 2016. Papadop forwarded Timofeyev's email about a meeting to Lewandowski. So Papadop forwards this email to Lewandowski, the one from Timofeyev, and then to Clovis, and then to Manafort, saying Russia's been eager to meet you guys. And Manafort forwarded it to another high-up campaign official, which Mueller doesn't name here. I wonder if it was Trump, or at least Rona Graff, saying, let's discuss. We need to communicate that Trump isn't going to make these trips. It has to be someone low level so as not to send any signal.
Because apparently Trump doesn't have an email, right? So
right,
it's like
Rona Graff gets all of his emails.
Yeah. Damn.
Or Trump Jr.
They're saying it needs to be someone of low level because if it's someone of high level, it'll look like it's a cover-up.
Or it'll send a signal that they're conspiring with Russia. I mean, that's the consciousness of guilt admission right there.
Yeah.
But they're saying that he's definitively not going to make the trips, and he doesn't wind up making the trips.
Trump is not going to make the trips.
Right. So that part's sincere. But the fact that they want like a low-level person to deliver it versus a higher-up person, it's because it would look suspicious if a higher-up person did, even though it's actually not, because he didn't wind up doing the trips.
Unless he did other
Unless they were
things.
planning on it at the time.
He never ended up going.
That's true.
But I think, because that's what you're exactly right. What Manafort's saying is we can't send Trump. That would look bad. We have to send a piece of shit.
Yeah, like it's too obvious. But I would think if Trump's doing shady things behind closed doors, he wouldn't want anything to look obvious. So he's like, yeah, don't, send that to me. Because we got all that other shit going on.
Yeah, he doesn't take emails anyway, right?
Right.
He can't do that.
Yeah, they've gotten themselves into a position where they can't even come out and tell the truth because it looks sketchy.
Yeah, how confusing must it
it's
be to work for the Trump administration?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And Papadop even sent another email to Lewandowski on his last day, Papadop's last day as on Lewandowski's last day as campaign manager, saying, hey, bro, I'll make the trip off the record.
Oh, interesting.
Do you okay. Lewandowski's like,
off the record. Yeah.
Ixnay off the Eckerd Ray. After Lewandowski left, Papadop kept bothering Ferez and Clovis. And he bothered them again and again during the summit of the Transatlantic Parliamentary Group on Counterterrorism. And Mueller included a photo of that summit in the report. You see a picture there. Clovis doesn't remember being there, but he's pictured. And emails between the two confirmed they not only were there, but discussed Russia trips. Not to mention Papadopoulos' handwritten notes that confirm the discussions with Ferez about the meeting with Timofeyev. So they're all just lies. Later communications said Clovis couldn't travel, but encouraged Papadop and Ferez to do so. Papadop was fired in October for an interview he did with Russian news agency Interfax. So on to page 93 in the section on Trump campaign knowledge of dirt. So it was verified that Papadop told a Greek official about the dirt, the emails, and he also told Alexander Downer, the Australian, and that made people wonder if he told anyone in the Trump campaign about the emails, because, why wouldn't you? He brags to them all the time about how great he is, and he's trying to get a job and be important. And as it turns out, no one Papadopoulos said he shared this info with on the Trump campaign could remember that he told them. And there's a large redacted paragraph that's grand jury protected. And Mueller says he couldn't get any email communications or texts between Papadop and the members of the campaign corroborating Papadopoulos' story. And this is likely one of those instances where folks used encrypted apps or destroyed evidence or hid their communications, lied about the communications, and could be some of that evidence that could shed new light on what really happened and could possibly have been the key piece of evidence that they would have needed to charge a crime of broader conspiracy. Hopefully the House Judiciary will get the grand jury material eventually and be able to understand what really happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Sorry, ADD brain. Going back to what I was talking about before with the let's discuss, we need to communicate that Trump isn't going to make these trips. It needs to be someone low level so as to not send any signal. I misinterpreted that as them saying the person who says Trump is not going to make the trips needs to be someone low level. That's why. That's why I was like, wait, what? Why? But I completely
Why
understand
would a low
now.
level person have to say Trump didn't go when he wasn't going to go?
But they're talking about still going and making the trip. It's just not okay. Sorry, I was taking way too innocently.
Yeah,
okay.
That's very sweet of you.
Yes.
Benefit of the doubt.
Also, sorry to interrupt. I just figured out stuff in my brain and had to say it.
Hey, do let it out.
Yes.
I appreciate. Now it actually becomes clear.
Yes.
And then, guys, finally, part G, additional Papadop communications. And this section starts on page 94 about Sergei Milyan. And Mueller says that he couldn't fully explore this because they could never get a hold of Milyan. Papadop reached out to him via LinkedIn. That's how he does. And even though his buddy Timofeev said he'd never heard of him, he met with Milyan July 31st and August 1st of 2016 because Milyan said he was the president of the New York Russian-American Chamber of Commerce. Milyan then invited Papadopoulos to speak at 2 international energy conferences, but Papadopoulos never did.
Interesting.
On July 31st, Papadop emailed the Trump campaign official that I had not heard of until this report came out, named Bo Denisic, and asked him if he wanted to be put in touch with Sergei Milyan and his Chamber of Secrets. Chamber of Commerce. Bo told Papadop, hold off. Too many articles had come out saying Trump was too chummy with the Russians, as was Manafort, so let's chill. Then on August 23rd, so they knew it was wrong. August 23rd, 2016, Milyan sent a Facebook message to Papadop saying, hey, I'd like to share with you a disruptive technology that might be instrumental to your political work for the campaign. Papadop told Mueller he had no recollection of the communication. On November 9th, after the election, Papadop met with Milyan again and they discussed business, but Milyan changed his attitude toward Papadopoulos when he said he was only interested in business and not a job with the Trump administration. So they also hung out in a D.C. bar where they both attended Trump's inauguration, so that was the same night. And that's the Papadop stuff, and that's where we will end it until next time.
Right.
When we get to discuss Carter Page and his hats.
That'll be fun. Yeah, the hat will take up like the first 30 minutes. No, I'm kidding.
The whole next episode, Carter Page's hat.
Yeah.
And then Dimitri Symes, I think we should have time to squeeze in on the next part, too.
Very nice.
This gives me... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just giving a little encouraging,
Yes. This gives me such pleasure to see Papadopoulos be spoken about in such detailed terms because he's tried so hard to downplay any sort of Russian-centric activity he engaged in.
Ivanka, too. I love how this whole part talked about her a lot, and she's been trying to distance herself.
Right, and how they're supposed to, she's not, it doesn't have anything to do with it, right? Wink, wink.
Totally. Well, and of course, all of them are going to do that, right? They're all trying to distance themselves. But Papadop is one of the people that it's taking a stone-like approach almost, which is I'm a victim.
I was Mifsud's in the CIA.
Exactly. And Mifsud's poor kid. I hope he doesn't grow up and want to avenge his father.
An asset, an agent of the United States, and he's hidden somewhere safe, and his kid's is fine. I hope he's not dead.
That would be cool. Is it legal for them to do it? FBI, right? They can.
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Throw up. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Witness protection, you mean?
Right. Well, if Mifsud worked for the government, the U.S. government, that's kind of what the Papadop believers are doing.
Believers.
Yeah.
Papadop believers.
Yeah. God. His whole fucking self just belongs in a Dr. Seuss book.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Papadop.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the FBI does, right? They'll set up fake furniture shops to shake down Russian mafia or to find out Italian mafia guys or whatever. They'll set up whole fake businesses to catch criminals.
Yeah.
They might set up a fake Russian agent selling emails to see if anybody bites and see if the campaign was willing to do that.
Yeah.
Based on the real attempts to reach out to them through Vance Bezos.
Yeah, I was going to say the intelligence is right, though, so that...
But I personally think Mifsud is not. I do think Mifsud it does have Russian ties, did offer this email stuff. But again, even if he was entrapment, it's not, because it's just not.
Sure. No, I feel you. And just to think, I couldn't come up with a Papadopoulos Cat in the Hat reference, but at least there's Carter Page could easily go with Cat in the Hat or Ass in the Hat. I don't know. There's got to be something there. I just don't see one for Papadop. Yeah.
No.
I went through so many in my head, one fish, two fish, and then really racist. I don't know.
And then it got
credit
bad
for trying.
Yeah.
I gave up.
Exactly.
I just said Dr. Susan dipped.
That was good.
So I'm just trying to see back in the report how they exactly met initially, Papadop and Mifsud. Because it's interesting that, unless my memory is failing me, which is a very likely occurrence, or a very common occurrence, I don't remember Papadopoulos saying publicly, as part of his complaining that he's been set up and everything, that Mifsud was an implant. He never says that specifically, and I feel like he would have said that.
Oh, I thought that was a thing. Is it just not Papadop's thing?
Which thing?
That he's a plant.
I'm saying I don't remember ever seeing Papadop explicitly say that he thought Mifsud was a plant, but did he?
I thought he did.
There's lots of people that are saying it.
But did Papadop?
I'm not sure.
It's not in the report. I don't.
Right.
I thought he did. I thought he did in his book, how he was framed.
Yeah, just the Papadop believers.
But he specifically thinks Mifsud was a plant.
I assumed that's the only guy who could have framed him.
Yeah, that's true. Or I guess also Alexander Downer, but that's not even relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is relevant.
That'd be a
but
cool
not as
SNL
much
sketch
as
though, like Debbie
Mifsud.
Downer, just Alexander Downer.
Yeah, I'm
guess.
probably just having a lapse in my memory right now.
It's all good.
He met Mifsud in Italy.
Mm-hmm. Papa.
Treason Tinder. That'd be funny.
Yeah, he went to Italy where he was introduced to Mifsud by the Italians. I'm assuming.
Mueller claimed Joseph Mifsud.
What if he was introduced to Mifsud by Simone Mangiante, who was a Deripaska boatho? What if it was the Russians who put
his
Papadop
fiance?
in touch with Mifsud?
Wow.
Well, I still think Simone Mangiante is a Russian agent, but like that's
but it hasn't
total
been.
space beans.
Okay, that's just
total space
Stedman
beans.
believes it too. He's on that, right? Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I just think so because she seems to have. She's
off. Something's off.
Yeah, there's something wrong with where she comes from, and her. She lies a lot about her age and where she's from and what work she did, and she didn't actually work at the place she said she worked at.
Yeah, and we've seen this happen with Butina, right? Like this is not uncommon for them to plant significant others into people's lives.
Yeah.
So,
or at least around people, maybe not specific, but
right.
Who knows? But yeah, they all were trying to get into the Trump campaign somehow. So I wouldn't put it past Putin and Oleg Deripaska to hire Simone Mangiante to take Mifsud and inject him into the Trump campaign via Papadopoulos.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, if he's complaining about being framed, Mifsud would be the like major person for him to be.
And she's a honeypot,
about.
and she's a little old, right? So that's their MO, the Anna Chapmans and Butinas of the world, just sort of hot ladies to hook up. And I think she's an agent, man.
Mifsud, sorry, I'm like all in the Mifsud thing, and you're like, I'm moving on here. Mifsud, he made false statements to the FBI, though, about his contacts with Papadopoulos, so that would be weird for him to
Unless it were a play.
But I don't think he was charged.
He was not charged, which is like the tit for tat in that argument.
But why would you lie to the FBI if you're an FBI?
Yeah, he's probably not.
Maybe to protect your cover.
That's what I was thinking, but it's just unlikely.
That's going far.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
I really don't think he's an agent.
Yeah,
I think
I don't
Simone
think so
Mangiante
either.
is the agent.
Yeah.
And Papadop is like, they framed me, and Mangiante's all, he, I sure did.
Somebody did, yeah.
But it wasn't the U.S. that did it. I think it was Russia that
and
set
he
it
framed himself a bit there.
True.
Yeah,
all right, guys.
I'm sure. Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I'm sure everyone that's listening is going to tweet us a bunch of articles and stuff that will have deep opinions on all of these things and fact checking. So I look forward to that, everyone.
Yeah, cool. No, send them away. And, we do have a corrections section where you can go to MuellerSheWrote.com, click on contact, select corrections, and then build me a compliment sandwich. And then you'll be allowed to say your feedback in between those two pieces of nice bread. Guys, this has been really fun. We will see you for part 5. And any final thoughts?
Just, I'm really, really stoked to keep this going. We're halfway through, just about. Sort of. No, not quite.
We still have probably 6 or 7 episodes for volume 1 alone.
I'm enjoying the ride.
It's fun. There's just a lot. And I just want to make sure we touch on everything.
That's
and
good.
Sometimes providing context makes it take longer than just reading the actual damn report your own self. But, But this is way funner.
Definitely.
Yeah. Fact checking myself, Papadopoulos 100% in his book did say that he thinks Mifsud was a explicitly Western intelligence asset sent to entrap him.
Okay.
So there you go.
So
he did explicitly say that about Mifsud.
And I think that would be more feasible that he's an asset. He's a foreign asset we use as an informant as opposed to, I think Sater is also an asset.
But not in the sense they were planted, like perhaps his fiance might have been. Just in the sense that they probably utilized his information after he,
or maybe they did it ahead of time. Or maybe they did it afterwards. Or maybe Mifsud's on an always mission to get dirt on people, trying to get Russia to interfere in their elections. I have no idea. But it's more feasible than being a direct employee of the CIA.
For sure.
To be just a foreign person that you're like, hey, what do you got over there?
Yeah, that just gets money by coming out and doing those sorts of things. It is so weird, though, that he's completely disappeared and lied to the FBI.
Yeah, unless he's in witness protection.
Yes.
And lied to cover it up. But now we're getting super cloak and dagger. And I'm like, that seems a little tinfoil hat.
Yeah, totally.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Again, please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I've been AG.
I've been Jaleesa Johnson.
I've been Jordan Coburn.
And this is Mueller, She Wrote. Mueller, She Wrote is produced and engineered by AG with editing and logo design by Jaleesa Johnson. Our marketing consultant and social media manager is Sarah Lee Steiner, and our subscriber and communications director is Jordan Coburn. Fact-checking and research by AG, and research assistance by Jaleesa Johnson and Jordan Coburn. Our merchandising managers are Sarah Lee Steiner and Sarah Hirschberger Valencia. Our web design and branding are by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios, and our website is MullerSheWrote.com.